Hello and welcome to ETHR World. My name is Rajesh Barnwal and I am in conversation with Shweta Harikrishnan, the HR Director of Hacker Earth. We are going to talk about diversity and inclusion at the workplace. Shweta, welcome to the show.
Thank you,
Shweta,
Rajesh.
Shweta is an active member of the LGBTQ community and a leader in promoting diversity and inclusion in technical hiring. So my first question for Shweta is, what made you a champion of diversity and inclusion at the workplace, and how did you become an active member of the LGBTQ community?
Okay, interesting question, Rajesh. So, champion of DNI. So, I didn't really start off championing when I think about it now, right? I started off initially as a matter of curiosity and interest because typically, I think 14 years ago when I started off my career, I think diversity still existed, but more in the form of gender and specifically women, right? So there were these
Okay.
women networks that existed. And I
Mhm.
just volunteered, raised my hand and volunteered to kind of lead on a few of these things, luckily. And I think, very visibly started championing it once I saw the true benefit and the value of it in my job itself from a people point of view, and then
Mhm.
it just made business sense. And I'm sure there's a lot of narratives out there that you find on on the internet today. But
Mhm.
that I think led me to championing it in the true sense of it. And did you have a following question after that? Sorry, I
Yes.
missed it.
Why is it important to have a diverse and inclusive team?
I think that journey visibly leading on that front in the workplace was in parallel to my personal journey that I was going through as being a member of the LGBT community myself.
Mhm.
And I think it kind of went in parallel, right?
Okay.
And the more comfortable I got with that side of me, I just felt conflicted not to come out at work also and visibly lead on the LGBTQ side when it comes to it being also a very important part when it comes to inclusion, right? And that kind
Mhm.
of led me to again lead on LGBTQ plus side of things when it comes to inclusion in the workspace also. Why is it important to have inclusive teams? Did you ask
Yeah,
next?
yeah. Right.
Okay. Um, I think um, I think it shouldn't be a personally, I really don't think it should be a filter or an option. I know we're still talking about it. But if you're a company working with people,
Mhm.
I don't think really you can do your best if you're not inclusive because you're
Okay.
working with human beings. We are not working with robots, not yet,
Mhm.
at least, thank God, right?
Mhm.
So if you're not inclusive, so we're working with humans and we're all so different from each other. So
Mhm.
even if you have a team, as an example of say 5 men from a gender point of view, right, these 5 men are quite diverse in themselves. If you're
Mhm.
adding another woman to the team, that is just another angle of or another dimension of diversity you're adding. Otherwise,
Mhm.
there's a lot of diverse mix within these 5 men itself. And if you don't have an inclusive environment, then what will happen? You're not letting them express. You're not letting them do things that they want to do, which means at some point you are limiting creativity over there or innovating. You're not innovating, right? Which means as a company, as a team, you're stuck. As a company, you're stuck and you're kind of stagnant, which means your product or the service that you're offering out there will also reflect the stagnancy out there, and
Mhm.
which means it will also reflect your customers, right?
Okay.
And the
Yeah.
outcome of this is, hey, what will happen? You'll end up losing your people, your team, and you'll end up losing your customers too. And I think you
Mhm.
won't have a competitive advantage over all the other competitors or in the market who are probably far beyond you innovating things, right? And that's why I think it's very important to be inclusive.
Okay. When we talk about diversity and inclusion, why most of the
Mm-hmm.
conversation stops at gender ratio, and why we don't go beyond that?
I love this question. you know, um, Interesting. But I have to tell you, and I'm going to differ here a little bit. I think if we talk about at least 5 years ago, it was predominantly restricted and stopped at gender.
Okay.
And gender, that too within gender, only women. And I agree that because of the imbalance that we are talking, rightly so, women more, just so that it's 50-50 balance at least, right? But
Mhm.
today, I think when I look back at 5 years, right? Today, the conversations have spanned out beyond gender. We are talking a lot about um no bias.
Okay.
Unconscious bias is a very, very predominant term you'll find out there. It's nice.
Mhm.
So since the past 5 years, a lot of companies have also started, companies and otherwise outside, right? So we started talking about unconscious bias. We started talking about LGBTQ inclusion. We started talking about more about generational age, etc., and all of that. And of course, people with disabilities. And there's a lot of focus also given to the transgender community, and you'll see out in the news too,
Mhm.
right? From that inclusion point of view. So I know what you're saying. I'm just personally very happy that at least the needle is moving. I
Mhm.
would have loved for it to move at a faster pace, but I'm still happy with it. It's moving. It's not stopped at gender or women, thank God.
Okay. What role does the culture play in fostering diversity and inclusion at the workplace?
I think culture is the first and I will even go to the extent of saying the only role there, right?
Okay.
Diversity and inclusion is your culture,
Okay.
right? If your culture is not, if the culture of a company is not inclusive,
Mhm.
all your efforts going in what you're doing as a plan or action in terms of diversity inclusion is going to fall pretty flat. And I will guarantee you that. Because if your culture is not inclusive, if your culture is not letting the people whom you already have in the company, and I'm going to refer to diversity as the mix, as how I would like to refer to it, right?
Mhm.
Diversity is the mix, and the inclusion is you helping or providing an environment for this mix to work.
Right.
Yeah. So if your environment or the culture is not letting your people say no when they want to say no along with yes,
Mhm.
disagree to things, if your culture is not something that helps me come to work and just be or bring my whole selves to work, because I'm
Mhm.
at my best when I can get my whole self to work.
Okay.
We are human beings again, we're in a bad mood, we're in a good mood. If I'm not able to express all of that at work, which means I'll end up having a personal life and a professional life separately, you're
Mhm.
putting me through a lot of trauma by trying to maintain these two personas, right? So, and it's also, I'm just saying, since you spoke about culture, I would totally relate it to the top leaders of the company.
Okay.
Culture is created by the top leaders of the company. Culture is driven top down. I'm a huge believer of things to be done bottom up, but not in this
Mhm.
one. It's top down. So I would directly correlate it to what the leaders or even the CEO of the company has created as a culture for the company. Very, very important.
Okay. What are the key elements of a successful diversity and inclusion strategy?
Strategy is a big word.
But it it decides what we
Yes,
follow and
I
what's
know.
your step.
I'll come to that. Interesting again, no? Strategy is a big word, as I said. So I would say, and I'm going to touch on the strategy part of it and what I've strongly experienced and today believe works, okay? But
Okay.
I think, number one is when you start thinking about inclusion and diversity, right? Take a step back. The first step I will urge everyone to do some pre-work and thinking as the core leadership team of the company.
Okay.
Because I'll tell you, Rajesh, these days, right? And a lot of I've been with company who's probably I've made a certain few mistakes myself, right? When you
Mhm.
talk about diversity inclusion and putting a strategy for the company, you start doing a search on the internet at first,
Right.
okay? And a lot
Mhm.
of the people tend to pick up things from outside to the inside of the company.
Mhm.
What I'm trying to say is stop, do a pre-work. Things have to be done from the inside to the outside, right? You ask the question, why are you even talking about diversity inclusion as a company, right?
Mhm.
Uh, and then you try and figure out, okay, what is the problem that you're trying to solve when you're talking about inclusion, right?
Mhm.
And then state the problem there. And then you narrate this ideal situation that you want the company to be at from a D&I point of view, inclusion and diversity point of view. And then when you do this as a core leadership team, right? And I
Mhm.
hope the leadership team who is doing this is also representative when it comes to inclusion and diversity. Because, like, for example, this leadership core team is not just all men. If you're talking about gender inclusion, it has to be a mix of men and women, right? Does it have a representation if possible from someone from the LGBT community? Nothing like it. You will move things faster, right? PWD, someone from the people with disabilities, nothing like it. So have a mix at the leadership team also, who is championing this agenda is what I'm saying. Now, once you look at this ideal situation versus where you are today, you'll know the gap. Now, the second step, you start with building your strategy based on this gap that you're seeing, right? And then, what you do is you build your strategy, break it down into short term and long term, what you really want to see, put measures to it. I would say at the top as a leadership team itself, saying, hey, what are the probable measures if you want to do this, the short term measures and long term measures, so that you know if something is working or not. Now, when I talk about measures, and I think I would highly recommend that your measures can be two parts. One is your metrics.
Okay.
When we're talking about gender, then gender percentage. When you're talking about LGBT community, right? Are there people coming out into an employee resource groups, etc.? All of that. Have you hired someone from the, people with disabilities community? How does, all those elements, you can actually look at it as a mix. Those are your metrics, hard metrics. I think a lot of mistakes what people do today is ignoring and not looking at the softer behavioral measures. Part two, which is also very, very important. Culture transformation takes time. Behaviors take time to be changing. But I think I love behavioral changes. I love transformations, right? That's why I'm calling it out. Those need to be kept in mind also. And you can do that by citing examples of these behaviors today. And after, I don't know, 2-3 years or year 1, year 2 also, what are the behavioral changes you want to see? These are your measures. And then the final one, I would just, my tip out there from a strategy point of view would be, from an execution point of view, and I'm a huge fan of this with experience, from an execution point of view, awareness and sensitization sessions for your pockets, starting from the top, separately, not together, which means your top leaders separate, the first level, second level, managers separate, and all your other pool of people separately. You do that sensitization awareness session, also asking the question what inclusion personally means to you, which means don't make it prescriptive, make it conversational. Start from what inclusion means to you and then create the change, looking at the gap that comes on what inclusion means to me, what it means to the company, and then I'll know where the gap is, and then I work with it.
Okay, could you please illustrate what do you mean by software behavioral measures that are needed?
Interesting. For example, if you have, and I'm going to take an hiring example over here, okay?
Okay.
I have faced, so when an interview happens, you typically look at the resume of the person, right? And you're typically seeing that age used to be mentioned a lot in a resume.
Right.
I have been in situations myself when you see an age like a 40, 45 over there for a role which is a junior role. Hey, but very interesting, their resumes have called out them a lot of achievements that they've done over there. But there is a personal bias acting where when you read through, as a recruiter, when you read through the resume, your mind is constantly playing out judgments and very strong biases. Saying, oh, I'll tell you the questions that comes in your mind typically, right? Because I've been there and I've unlearned a lot of things, right? Saying, oh, they are 45 years old, but they've applied for a job, said junior. Maybe they're not that ambitious. What is my right to even judge like that? Seems like they're good at the job with what they have mentioned as the achievement. At least I should give them an interview call. But what I will do is reject the resume there and then itself. Because I think age, because they are 45 years old and applying for a lower job, they might not be good, and then they're not ambitious enough. An example of a bias, So what I'm saying is, now this is a behavior where the recruitment team says, maybe there's some metrics related to it, right? They've found a correlation and they said, from an inclusion point of view, hey, we've seen this behavior and this is a measure. There could be some quantifiable measure associated with it saying 2018, this is where we are. 2019 end, after we do all what we have to do from an inclusion point of view, let's relook at this measure again. Are we seeing any change over here? And I'm sure we will, because we would have done a lot of conversations and trainings also as one of the initiatives, right? Saying, asking people and talking to people on unconscious bias. Biases are there because we are human beings dealing with everything. Yeah. So that's an example to what you asked. Behavioral changes.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah. Okay, where does Hacker Earth as a company stand on the diversity and inclusion parameters?
Right? And I'm going to be very honest without
Okay.
sounding like bragging, okay? But I'm just going to be honest. It's not bragging. So I'll tell you what. And I joined HackerOath a year and a half and more ago. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think, and this is my personal point of view. Unlike a
Okay.
lot of other companies that I have worked with, where I have also led on diversity and inclusion, taking an approach of outside, basically having a separate vertical and a team monitoring hard metrics, right? In
Mm-hmm.
HackerOath, we can't do that and we don't do that because it's help. What do I say? It's built in our DNA itself.
Okay.
It is built in our DNA itself. Inclusion is at the heart of anything and everything that we do. So we don't have hard metrics that we are tracking.
Mm-hmm.
What we do, so we don't look at a metrics month on month, but what we do is real time challenge biases when we see.
Mm-hmm.
Because Rajesh, our product is also about inclusion,
Mm-hmm.
and the product was created on the whole basis of inclusion. So it's conflicting if we have a conversation separately outside, oh, are we inclusive or not? So because of which, because our product is so inclusive, talking about no bias and etc. and all of that in hiring, as a company, we are very inclusive, right? We don't, and I know you're asking about parameters. So as examples, right? So we don't look at pedigree
Okay.
and filter people while hiring. Our job descriptions are gender neutral. Our POSH, prevention of sexual harassment
Mm-hmm.
policy is also gender neutral, and that's a take we've had on the company, right? Saying harassment policies can be raised by anyone, we look into it. If I have to talk about metrics,
Mm-hmm.
we're close to 30-35% when it comes to gender distribution and percentage at the top leadership level as well as across the company. I'm from the LGBT community and I'm a part of the top leadership of the company. So what I'm saying is we don't track these.
Okay.
We don't track these, but we challenge, and we are human beings, right?
Right.
But what we do is we do have policies supporting the work environment we are in, where people, it's a protective policies like your anti-bullying and harassment policy and etc. and all of that, where people can voice these out if
Mm-hmm.
they feel there is exclusion happening anywhere.
Okay.
And so we are giving that opportunity for people to bias. And that's the way we're operating actually. Yeah.
Well, Sweta, that was really nice. In fact, it was very meaningful. Some good thoughts. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with ETHR World. And thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rajesh, for this opportunity.
That was Shweta Harikrishnan. Thank you so much for watching ETHR World. Stay connected with ETHR World for a comprehensive insight on everything that matters in the HR world. Thank you.